Hey, Jared, guess what day it is?
Is it Tuesday?
Taco Tuesday. Welcome to Let's Bet It. Lauren Jabbar here with Jared Smith. Jared, you're back home, safe and sound. How does it feel to be sleeping in your own bed?
Feels good. I slept a lot yesterday. I
Yeah?
was out like a light by like 9 p.m. Woke up at 5 a.m. Got a Peloton in this morning.
Ooh.
Refreshed, cleaned the apartment, like just did all the things that I like, nooks and crannies, everything back in its rightful place. I was gone for 10 days. So long trip, but a very productive one, a healthy one. And yeah, I'm ready
Healthy?
and rested and charged.
Was it
Absolutely
healthy or
healthy.
was it a bender?
No, it was healthy. Look at my tan. I got the Vegas desert tan going on here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, we're glad to have you back at home with your nice background that you have. And
Appreciate that.
we have the buttons back, the noise
Oh
button.
yeah, it was a profitable trip for the draft, so
I love
that
it.
that was
Love
good.
to see it. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll stay away from the fail one. The want until
we
there's
don't
a
want to hear
reason to.
that, to be
You guys,
honest.
no, I prefer never to press it again, but I mean, I'm sure at some point we're gonna have to.
Hey, we got a lot to talk about today. Hopefully you're pressing a lot. Oh, words are hard for me today. Hopefully you're pressing a lot of that cash button. We got better up our segment with MLB, 16 games on the card tonight. NBA Morning Radar, two more games going on today. We have JVT from VSiN coming on to break down some of that with us. NHL Ice Picks, first day of the playoffs started yesterday. Jared's on some futures. I'm on a couple games today. We have some kick picks across the pond, and then we can't end without our Pickswise three-star play of the day and our best bets of the day. So without further ado, my friend, let's get into it and let's bet it better up. 16 games on the card. Obviously, every day we talk about the YRFIs and the NRFIs. Jared has been tracking them for us all season long. YRFIs went 4-4 yesterday. 174 and 165 on the season. That's 51.3% to the YRFIs. Now, if you bet all YRFIs so far in the season, yes, runs first inning, you're down 6.28 units. If you bet all
Hmm.
NRFIs, no runs first inning, you're down 52.41 units. So hopefully none of you guys have been doing that all season long. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for the last 3 weeks now. Um,
Yeah.
it these are coin flip bets, and the coin flips because of all of the nerfy love that's been thrown around over the last 2 years. The juice now is heavy on the under to the nerfies, or heavy on the
Mm-hmm.
under of the runs first inning under a half, and that's making it an unprofitable venture, despite the fact that it's relatively even. 51%
Mm-hmm.
to one side, 49% to the other. You wouldn't expect to be down 52 units on the no at
Yeah.
49%, but that
The
just
juice
shows
really
you
ain't worth the squeeze at that point.
these are juice to high heaven. I don't know if you got any juice bars there in Atlanta, but that's where these things are hanging out. Actually, you're not in Atlanta right now. You're in Chicago. I'm sure they have juice bars
Yeah, I'm in
in
Chicago.
Chicago too. Yeah. So, one other note on this, and again, now that we have basically a month's full of data, I can start to dissect certain teams that are better or worse on these. The Dodgers are a fascinating run first inning team. So the Dodgers have conceded the fewest amount of times in the first inning, just twice in 21 games. But on the other side, they have the highest runs scored percentage in all of baseball. They've scored in 47.6% of first innings. So they're scoring a lot in the first, but they're not giving up any runs in the first. Which side do you bet on there for the Dodgers? It's like, I don't know, your head spinning looking at those numbers. So they're a team that I would just completely stay away from in the RFI bets. And then we'll get to some in a little bit that I think are interesting sprinkles this evening.
Yeah, you are on one YRFI and one NRFI today. Please tell us more, Jared Smith.
Yeah. So I'll let you decide. Do you want me to start with the yes or the no?
No, let's start with the no.
Yeah, you always like to hear the no first and
Yeah,
then the yes
negative news
at the end.
first, positive news second. Always.
Sure. So we are taking a shot. I'm pulling out my quiver. I'm taking a shot here at Coors Field on the
Okay.
Nerfy at Coors Field. Crazy. What are you thinking, Jared? You're absolutely nuts. Well, I'll give you my thoughts here. So the pitching matchup, Eric Fetty against Herman Marquez. These two pitchers combined have not allowed a run in the first inning. 4-0, 4-0. So they've each started 4 games. They've each had 4 clean half of their respective first innings. The Rockies, as you would expect, above 500 on the YRFI this season, 14-8, but they're only plus 1.3 units, which again shows you how heavy the juice is on the yes at Coors Field. So anytime you lose one, it's like losing 1.5. And compared to when you win one, you get a little more juice there on it. The Nats are basically split 12-12, but they've only conceded 5 times this season out of 24 games. And again, we mentioned Fedde 4-0 to the NRFI. So we'll take a shot. Again, my theory is Coors Field NRFIs will be in the green at the end of the year. Right now, it's about even. We'll see where we're at after tonight. And then the YRFI, you want the good news at the end. So we'll give you Diamondbacks, Marlins. Yeah, of course. Why not? Diamondbacks, Marlins will give you a YRFI at plus 115. I got this over at Westgate. Trevor Rogers, actually, who was a great, rookie, burst onto the scene last year for the Marlins. He's been a little bit of a slow starter this year. He's given up a run 3 times in his first 4 starts. And his only home start. Meanwhile, Humberto Castellanos for the D-backs tonight, he is 1-2 to the YRFI this season, but 2-0 on the road. So again, 1-0 on the road. So the one run that he allowed in the first inning this year did come in his only road start. Arizona's hit 2 straight. Miami hit yesterday. These teams are actually better to the no this year, but again, plus money. Trevor Rogers, who's been a little shaky early on. So I'll take a chance here. Diamondbacks, Marlins, YRFI, plus 115.
I like it. I like it a lot. I actually might tell you on the YRFI because I'm loving some positive news today. And I love the plus money that you're getting it at. I actually have 2 bets today that are kind of on the same game. I'm looking at the game between the Giants and the Dodgers. So I like Carlos Rodon over 7.5 strikeouts. I got that at plus 100 on DraftKings. He's had a great start to the 2022 season. He struck out 38 batters, Jared, over 23 innings pitched. Last time I checked, that's pretty dang good. And he's going up against the Dodgers, who right now have the 11th highest strikeout rate against right-handed pitchers over the last 2 weeks, 24%. And he hit this number in each of his 4 starts so far in 2022. I like getting it at plus money. So Carlos Rodon, over 7.5 strikeouts tonight. I think he's going to get 8 or more. And then on top of that, I'm kind of continuing to go with that with the Giants money line at plus 126. Like I was saying, he has had a really great start to the season, 3-0 so far, 1.17 ERA, 2.21 xFIP, and a 43.2% strikeout rate this season. He's feeling it right now to start the season. And granted, these numbers are a lot better than his career numbers, and I know he's probably going to digress at some point, but still, when a pitcher's hot, you got to ride him, right? Julio Urias on the bump for the Dodgers. He's 1-0. He's had a pretty good start to the season, too. 2.50 ERA as well. xFIP of 4.60. And K to BB, not great. Just 9.6%. So the Giants right now, you look at their on-base percentage, they're 11th, 31.5%, and number 2 in runs scored this season at 109. The Dodgers are kind of around the same place. They're 9th in on-base percentage, number 9 also in runs scored at 102. The bullpens are also pretty even at this point of the season. So the Giants have the edge for me in starting pitching. And offensively, it's close enough that even though the Giants have scored a little bit more runs, right now the Dodgers have a 57.8% chance of winning this game based on the odds that I'm seeing on some of these sports books. That just seems too high to me with how their starter is pitching versus how Carlos Rodon is pitching. So I like San Francisco here. Due to the price and the starting pitcher, you get it at plus 126. I got that on FanDuel. So Carlos Rodon over 7.5 strikeouts and Giants money line at plus 126. Those are my 2 baseball bets today. You have another strikeout bet too, yeah?
Yeah, I'll give you Tyone now. This might be play of the day, depending on what we hear from JVT coming up in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'll give you the handicap now, and then you can chew on it, digest it. It can marinate a little bit, and then we can revisit it. And, if so
I think
needed.
I had a good steak last night, I will say, marinating.
I'll be honest. I would expect nothing less. Have you had any deep dish pizza since you've been there?
No, I haven't. To be honest with you,
hear a hot
I grew
take?
up on the Detroit style pizza, Deep dish doesn't do it for me.
I
Deep dish
agree.
pizza is literally a lasagna. It's not pizza.
I
It's
met
freaking lasagna.
I met these Chicago people when I was in Vegas, and I had a heated debate with them about New York style pizza just being light years better than Chicago style pizza. So
Detroit style is the best, though, I will say.
I don't think I've ever had Detroit style. What is Detroit
You
style
have to.
pizza?
It's thicker crust. It comes in a square, and all of the pieces are corner pieces. But it's like the
Uh,
bread is like very thick, so it's like a lot of bread, but it's really good. Like whereas Chicago style is little bread, a lot of cheese. You know what I mean? Like
I do
Chicago style
like.
pizza. I don't want to hate on it for my Chicago people, but it's lasagna. It's not pizza. You
No,
can't call
it's
it
okay.
pizza.
You can hate on it. You can totally hate on it.
Yeah,
I've
I'll
had
take
it.
that to my grave.
It's not good. It's not. I mean, granted, I'm spoiled. I had pizza last night for the first time in over 10 days out west. It's not the same either. That was like I was like I have to have pizza when I come back because it's like the
Yeah,
best here in New York. So I'm
the
spoiled, but
best.
I don't know. So speaking of New York pizza, how about we go with a New York pitcher, and we take the under 4.5 on Jamison Tyone, who hates Chicago style pizza. He's projected for 3.68. His FIP against the Blue Jays. So I watched the Yankees Blue Jays game last night. The Yankees are the only team in baseball that have had only 5 starters start a baseball game
Yeah.
this year. Like had their rotation set and in a routine throughout the entire campaign, which is very impressive because they're usually a team that's just crushed with starting pitcher injuries. But Tyone's been a guy that I would say is the weak link of this rotation. And he doesn't have good numbers against the Blue Jays. He's on the road tonight, 582 FIP, 14.5 K rate in 55 plate appearances. So not a huge sample size there, but still a pretty decent sample size. And the reason why I like the under here specifically is K per 9 drops not dramatically, but pretty significantly between his home and road starts for Tyone. So 8.55, this is his career numbers, 8.55 K per 9 at home, drops to 7.86 on the road. And in his only road start this season at Baltimore, a bad lineup, he only had 2 strikeouts. Much better lineup tonight against the Blue Jays. And they were held down to just 2 runs yesterday. What a great job by Jordan Montgomery and the rest of the Yankees rotation and bullpen, who are the Yankees. Yankees are on fire right now. They've won 10 straight games.
Yeah.
But I think eventually you are going to see this Toronto lineup break out. They were held down yesterday. I think they get to Tyone a little bit today. So we'll go under 4.5 strikeouts for JMO. Hopefully won't be taking any shots at JMO, or maybe he should before the game.
Maybe he will after the game to celebrate no strikeouts that he's going to get today.
Yeah, no,
We'll
I think I'll today. Hopefully he doesn't get
when
the
you're looking
5.
at some of these, yeah, when you're looking at some of these strikeout props, like how do you narrow down when there's 16 games on the card? How do you kind of narrow down some of these strikeout props looking at some of these games? Because it's tough.
It's so tough.
That's my hardest thing is looking at some of these games and being like, how?
I get anxiety just thinking about it. I need to have a gambling shrink. You and I used to play gambling shrink therapists for each other. We might need to go back to that during baseball season because I think the volume of baseball is really the hardest part about it. It's relentless. It's every day. 15 today. We have a doubleheader, Braves and Mets. 16 games on the schedule today. Like, for example, I'll give you straight up Herman Marquez, who, we talked about the NRFI at Coors Field. He was on my card tonight. Over 3.5 strikeouts, laying 45 cents. And I still have a little bit of a sprinkle on him. But just I didn't feel as confidently as I did about Tyone, and I'm trying to limit. It is very, very hard. I think the key aspect is if you can maybe make a pro and con list for each guy and players that have, guys that you're thinking about, but you can start to rack up a bunch of cons, then you can start to formulate, unless you have some kind of fancy schmancy algorithm where you could say, all right, well, this guy has a 15% chance, this guy has a 14% chance, and then you can rank them down. If you don't have that, most people don't, you just have to go through some pros and cons in your head and say, you know what, I don't feel as confidently, so maybe I'll knock him down a little bit, maybe make a, dotted line. This guy's above the fold, this guy's below the fold. But it's tough. There's a lot of 2,400 and something games during an MLB season. Very difficult to narrow it down to 1 or 2 plays every day.
No, it is really crazy. And I know with NBA, like obviously we're getting down to the postseason at this point, 2 games a day, that kind of a thing. So I know we're going to bring in JVT in a second. He's having some camera issues, But I want to start off just talking about some of those games from yesterday. And then we'll bring in JVT in a second. So when we look at the games yesterday, obviously we saw the Heat do what the Heat did. They did the same thing in 5 games against the Hawks. I mean, their defense is so good. I know Tyler Hero didn't necessarily have a breakout game against the Hawks. Last night he puts up 25 points. What did you see from the Heat in that game? And the 76ers back for game 3 back in Philly. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I was a little dozed off on the couch last night. I didn't watch a ton of this game, but I definitely think Miami did what they had to do. They can't lose without Embiid in the lineup, so you would hope that they took care of business and they'll take care of business again in the next game. But this is a very tough series to bet on because the games without Embiid are going to be juiced to high heaven towards Miami. I will say this, though. I noticed they really jacked up the prop numbers of guys like Tyrese Maxey and James Harden. Maxey stayed under easily last night. That's how I would play this if, like, in game 2 when Embiid is out. We'll see what the number is adjusted to, but Maxey only had 19 points. I think his number was in the mid-20s, like low to mid-20s, whereas he was kind of an 18, 19, 20 point prop number for pretty much the entire season, especially later in the year when he really came on. But because no Embiid, they distributed it accordingly and they bumped up a lot of these other numbers. But I don't really see that being a positive because the Heat are such a good perimeter defending team. Without Embiid, they're only going to be able to key in on those guys more and make it even more difficult for a Tyrese Maxey to get going. So that's how I would look. Kind of if you trying to find an angle in this Heat Sixers series, maybe the under with some of these some of these Sixers guards, because again, just because Embiid's out doesn't mean that they have to score more. If anything, the Heat defenders will have a little more chance to lock in, and when that number moves up, you're going to get some value on the under.
Definitely. For more on that, let's bring in JVT, Jonathan Von Tobel, senior NBA analyst for VSiN. JVT, once we bring him in, first of all, where's he at?
No, I don't think he's in right now. I think we're going to have to move on to something else.
No. Oh, no. Well, we can talk about the Mavs Suns game, too. Luka, obviously, the best player on the court. But the other best players in the court were all on the Suns. The Suns' defense was absolutely phenomenal. Devin Booker was unbelievable. The Suns are the better team in this series. Luka is the best player on the court, in my opinion. But what are you expecting from this Mavs-Suns series at this point?
It's really tough. If Luka's going to score 45 points and they are going to still lose by 3-4 possessions, I mean, what can you do? Now, it's kind of funny. In no universe do I think the Mavs are a better team without Luka. Let's just throw that notion away. But when you talk about the rest of the team needing another second or third scorer, it was Brunson, it was even Bullock for a little bit, Finney-Smith. I mean, these guys all stepped up in that opening round at some point and all had their moments. Spencer Dinwiddie really being another guy that was pushed to the forefront with Luka Doncic out. Now Luka comes back, those guys relax a little bit. And they can't relax a little bit because Phoenix is just too good and too deep. So it's an interesting dynamic. And obviously, again, I'm not saying that the Mavs are better without Luka, but the role players were playing much more aggressively and assertively when Luka was out. Now Luka's back and they're kind of settling into what that second, third, and fourth fiddle role that they're used to. And you're seeing the results. Kleber had a decent game, was 5 for 8 from 3, but no one else in the starting lineup, Mavs, scored more than 15 points. And listen, against Phoenix, they need a second and a third guy to be in the high teens or in the low 20s, or they have no shot to beat this Phoenix team. Because defensively, I don't think Dallas is good enough. They're going to have to outscore Phoenix, and they're going to have to ramp up that offense and play fast. So if we get JVT in, maybe he'll give us a little bit of a,
JVT, is he here?
If he is, I'm fascinated to hear his.
Yay, JVT, Jonathan Von Tobel, senior him in, talk a little bit about the couple games from yesterday. First of all, JVT, how are you? Your Wi-Fi going well or working well over there? What's going on?
It's yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's a technology thing. So you got me via handheld camera. So I'm going to try to keep this shot even and centered on my massive face. But no, I'm doing good.
He's doing it for the people, guys. Man of the people right now. We were just recapping a couple of the games from yesterday. Obviously, the 76ers taking on the Heat. Can the Sixers win without Embiid, the way that the Heat play defense and the way that they were rolling on offense last night, especially a guy like Tyler Hero?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like, at least defensively, right? Like they're not going to be able to contain Miami. We know this. If you look at the minutes and all of the numbers that we have with all the backup options at center, why DeAndre Jordan got the start yesterday, you have no idea. Like every single number screams at you that he's an atrocious option defensively, and you saw that it get pulled pretty quick. To me, it's going to be, if they're going to win this, they're going to have to play better. They're going to have to shoot better. If you look at Miami defensively, the one thing they do is they don't allow you to get in the restricted area. No paint, no shots within 4 feet of the basket, but they do a lot of threes. They were last in opponent frequency of three-point attempts from beyond the arc. They were last in open field goal attempts allowed from beyond the arc, which means an opponent 4 to 6 feet away. And so I thought the game plan was going to be, shoot the ball a lot, man. Like, shoot it a lot and see if you could expose this. And they did. The problem was Niang goes 0-7. Harden shoots the ball extremely poorly. I think Maxey went 1 of 6 from three-point range. Those kind of things can't happen. So I think there's chances that they cover some of these numbers. I was on them yesterday, Philadelphia. They were up at halftime. Ultimately, don't cover that game. And now you're talking about 9 in game 2. Winning is a different animal, though. I don't think that's the case, but I do think you're catching some inflated numbers here. And if those shots start to go down at a better rate, they're at least going to be able to cover some of those big numbers without Embiid.
All right, let's get into tonight's games because obviously that's the actionable information that we can provide for our lovely audience today. Bucks Celtics. I was surprised, JVT, that they didn't move this number down after what we saw in game 1.
Yep.
I thought for sure we'd get 2.5, 3.5, at least a half a point move, but they feel pretty confident with this number. I know the zigzag approach, which hasn't been profitable the last few years anyways, says that Boston should come out strong and win this game. But I'll be honest, they didn't get anything in the paint, and unless they're making threes, I do not see them winning. So tell me why the books felt that 4.5 was a good number to leave it at.
I agree with you. I think there's so many things at play with a game like this and a number like this, right? One, I thought that Boston, I kept calling it like a shock to the system. This is what happens when you play a legitimate NBA defense, right? It's fun when you play 4 games against the Brooklyn Nets. It's a different animal when you're taking on Milwaukee, who's got a help defender like Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to come crashing in on shots within 4 feet of the basket. Only 10 two-point made field goals. That's really low, and all of them came at the rim, but they were only 10 to 22. It's a really poor rate. So I think just from a defensive standpoint, you got to kind of bring this number down. The margin between these two is much tighter than the number would indicate. But the other thing that's in play here I think is pretty interesting. So home court in the regular season, I think I've told you guys this, but in the regular season, it was only worth about 1.5 points. Well, now that we're into the postseason, it's still worth about maybe a point and a half, but markets are pricing it in as a full 3 points. And so through those last 2 games yesterday, even though the 2 home teams won and covered, road teams right now are 26 and 21 against the spread because home court is still being overvalued here. So I think you're getting multiple things. You're getting the Boston Celtics, who are the trendy, sexy young team who are going to come in and everybody likes because they've been playing really well. But you're also getting an overvalued home team because that's what the market's been doing. So I was on Milwaukee in game 1, and I'm going to go back to Milwaukee, I think, here in game 2 because there hasn't been an adjustment, and I think there needs to be.
Okay. So you like the Bucks plus 4.5 in this spot?
Yeah, I do. For me, I made this just under 3.5. I think these two teams are a little bit tighter here. And if you're going to count home court as 1.5 points, then maybe you can make a 2-point edge for Boston somewhere in that range. But this needs to be much closer to that 3.5, 3 range by my numbers as opposed to the 4.5 and the 5 that closed on game 1 on Sunday in some spots.
Yeah. I haven't necessarily bet this game yet. I was leaning the Celtics just looking at some of their numbers. Like the Bucks were so strong on the glass. They had 19 second chance points off of 10 offensive rebounds. And also the Celtics had 18 turnovers, which is not normal for them. They're averaging around 13 for the regular season. The Bucks had 27 points off of Celtics turnovers. I expect the Celtics to protect the ball a lot more than they did and try to be a little bit stronger on the glass. They need to be better at containing everyone else that's not named Giannis Antetokounmpo. You can't let Drew Holiday have the game that he had. You can't let a guy like Bobby Portis or Grayson Allen go off. All three of those guys combined for 51 points in the last game. That's what Boston needs to do to be able to win this game. I was mad because I took the Celtics to win game one and Celtics to win the series. We're going to see how this bet goes. I parlayed those together. So, But moving on to the Warriors-Grizzlies. The Warriors obviously up 1-0. Can we talk for a second, though, about how Klay Thompson missed 2 free throws at the end of that game, and I didn't cover my Warriors laying 2 spread because they won by 1 freaking point. I'm still not over it. I haven't slept in 2 days because of it, but you know what?
Stop.
And I am taking the Warriors laying 2 points again. JVT, how do you feel about it?
I don't hate it. So this is interesting because this is one of those instances where, like, I didn't get shouted down, but I had an opinion on the series in game one where I was like, I actually kind of think that if you were to ask me to set this series before it started, I was like, Warriors in 6, leaning a little bit more toward Warriors in 5, because I really like what this Warriors team brings to the table. But a lot of people that I respect, a lot of smart people, really disagreed and thought this Grizzlies team was going to be extremely competitive. And look, they could go on and win 4 straight, so I could still be completely wrong about that in terms of the series. But I think that game was such a missed opportunity for Memphis, and that can really swing things in terms of a series. And so then you get here where you're not really seeing an adjustment. Actually, the market coming in kind of stronger on Memphis. I see some 1.5s popping up at this point right now. And I think you probably shouldn't be adjusting it that much. And if you're talking about laying like 1.5, you get a cheaper money line. I think I'd go back to the well here with Golden State, because Draymond Green, you would think, is not going to get ejected. You can't really promise that given Draymond Green's history. But you think you're going to get Draymond Green for an entire game. Klay Thompson is not going to have, you talk about poor shooting nights and performances, not only missing those 2 free throws, but just having a poor performance overall, Klay Thompson, and being very inefficient from the floor. You don't expect that to happen. Curry got off to a really slow start in that game as well. So I kind of expect this to kind of get reverted back here for the Golden State Warriors. You're going to get better performances offensively from both of their star players. I think they're going to be in a much better position to cover a number like this after what was essentially a stolen victory in game one. Now you can come back and really put your foot on the throat of this team. And you're probably going to see some lineup tweaks too. Steve Kerr really didn't like Peyton in that first half starting in the lineup, right? He put him out there to see if he could match with Morant. Clearly in the second half, he had put him on the bench and he went out with his smaller lineup and put Poole back out there to start the second half. You'll probably see that again here to start this game too, which means a better start overall. I think this is a better opportunity for Golden State. So yes, I would agree, going back to the well here with Golden State in terms of laying that. Go get your bet back from over the weekend.
2 things.
Keeping my fingers crossed.
First of all, 2 things that I'm looking at this box score from game one, and this is why looking at box scores, dive in just head first. The Grizzlies got 33 points from Jaren Jackson and still couldn't win. 34 from Ja Morant, who, to his credit, is a guy that can obviously get to the rim and score, but he is not a true scoring guard. Now, I know Desmond Bane went under his average, only 9. He's been in the 20s for a lot of the postseason. But on the other side, Klay Thompson went 6 of 19 from the floor, and they still won the game. So just some absurd, outputs from both sides here. And if you look at that box score, you're like, man, how does Memphis lose this game? 33 points from Jaren Jackson. I have full faith he is not going to match that output tonight. So I agree. Warriors certainly look to be the side. Let's just flash forward for a second, JVT, because we're starting to see the futures market really get down to the nitty gritty. And it's looking like Warriors Suns in the West Final. Our buddy Scal came on a few weeks ago, told us to bet the Warriors at 5-1 to win the West. If you price that series today, it's going to be Phoenix on the home court, despite the fact that maybe Golden State looks like the better team. Like, where would you kind of lean right now in the West Final, hypothetically, between Golden State and Phoenix?
So I still think it would be Phoenix. I've got a ticket on Phoenix to win the finals at 7-1. So I like this team a lot. This has been my highest power rated team throughout the entire NBA regular season. I think they deserve it. I also think there's some advantages that they have in a series like that. We are seeing both in spurts against Denver and in that first game against Memphis, this is a small Warriors team. And I think when you look at the ability to put JaVale McGee and DeAndre Ayton out there, that's going to bother, I think, the Golden State Warriors over the course of a best of 7. So, like, I was asked this yesterday, and I think a series price would probably be in the range of Suns minus 150, maybe a little bit higher there, depending on how you equate home court over the course of a best of 7. But for me, it's still at this point, I'm kind of stubborn when it comes to like my priors and whatnot, and I've got a pretty good large sample size of data that tells me the Suns are the better team, so I'm going to kind of stick with that in a really tough fought series, by the way. But I do think the Suns win that thing.
When you look at the East, who do you have in the Eastern Conference Finals at this point?
So I think at this point right now, look, so I made a slight adjustment. So throughout the regular season, I was kind of stubborn and looking at Milwaukee and going, they've been inconsistent, but I'm going to keep them on top of my East power ratings just because, we know that they can perform better. But as Boston continued to play the way that they did, I did give them a slight bump over the Milwaukee Bucks, but it's very slight. So at this point right now, I still have faith that Boston's going to come out and win that series, especially the absence of Middleton will be felt at some point, right? You got a really good performance in game 1, but I still think they ultimately can come out and win this series against the Milwaukee Bucks. So I think I'd go with Boston and Miami in an Eastern Conference Finals. It's hard to look past Miami given everything going on with Philadelphia. So I think that's where I'm looking at this point right now. So Eastern Conference, give me Boston and Miami. I think that's what you're ultimately going to get.
I like it. JVT, we love having you on. Is your arm burning yet from holding the handheld camera, or how are you feeling?
Got his workout in today.
Not yet. Yeah, like I'm a little out of shape, but I'm not that out of shape. So it's going so far.
JVT, we so appreciate having you on. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm sure we're going to be talking to you quite a bit throughout the postseason. Best of luck with your bets tonight. Let's keep our fingers crossed for our Warriors. Lane 2, we got this tonight. Yep. We got this.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. JVT, you love to see it. Still, don't you think, Jared?
Yeah. Sorry, repeat that. You cut out a little bit when we did that transition.
Oh, sorry. JVT, you love it. I said he kept the camera pretty still. I'm very impressed by it.
I was so impressed. And I've got a tough decision to make for my pod now. Really tough. I think I'm going to end up going with the K prop, but the Warriors are close. If I didn't have exposure.
Yeah, you got to marinate on it for a second.
Yeah, give me a minute here. Give me a minute here. We'll continue with the show, and we'll revisit it at the end here.
From the court to the ice, Jared, we go, because it's day 2 of the NHL playoffs. And I want to take it, before we talk about some of the games going on today, some series bets that we have going into this series, let's take it back to the futures, because throughout the season, you have accumulated quite a few futures bets. And all of them are on the one team that I don't have. So, like, the Avs are my team, obviously. The Avs are my team to win the Stanley Cup plus 320. There is still value. I am not a homer. They are the team that's going to win. Mark my words right now. But back to the futures, Jared. You have futures on 3 different teams. Tell us about who and why.
I think we need to make a side bet on the – can I take the field and I'll give you the Avs? What would you give me? Yes. What odds would you give me?
Let me marinate on that.
All right, you marinate. We will do at some point in the next few days, we will do some kind of official swag bet. I'm taking the field. I mean, this is not fair. You're taking the Avs. I mean, in reality, it should be like minus 200 or minus 300. But
that's what I was just about to say. Is like minus 220. That's like the first thing that comes to my mind.
Hammer. I would hammer that. But that's okay. We can get to that another time. So I'm like a squirrel hunting for chestnuts in the winter. I've accumulated all of my nuts, and now I am ready to feast on them when the postseason starts.
Jared's nuts.
I have been slowly accumulating futures nuts all hockey season long. You ready? On November 4th, I made 2 buys on the Panthers and the Hurricanes. November 30th, I bet the Panthers again. January 4th, the Panthers again. February 21st, Panthers, Hurricanes, Flames. The 3 positions that I have, if you accumulate all of my nuts together, I have a 1-unit position on the Panthers at plus 950. I have a half-unit position on the Hurricanes at 14-1. I have a half-unit position on the Flames at 20-1. That is team 2, 3, and 4 on the odds board behind Lauren's Avalanche. Great CLV on all of them. I know that market hasn't officially closed yet, but great line movement in our favor in all three. The Panthers, we got them at 950 aggregate. It's down to plus 550. They're the second favorite on the board. Hurricanes, who by the way looked tremendous last night. They were 14-1 when I say 50, and the Flames are down to 7-1. They're the favorite in the West behind your Avalanche. So we've got the two favorites in the East, and we've got the second favorite in the West. We're sitting pretty. I feel great about our futures positions, and now I'm going to be pretty conservative during the NHL postseason. Not going to be betting a whole lot of individual games. I'm going to be relying on my futures action to carry me through, and we'll see where we go. Although that being said, we are having a little fun with some overtime bets, which hopefully you can tell me more about right now.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited. Any series bets that you have going into the playoffs? Because I have one, and I know that our producer Jack really likes it. I have Rangers to win game 1 plus the series, and I got that at plus 158. I'm feeling really good about the New York Rangers. I know during the season, the Rangers basically dominated this battle between them and the Penguins. The Rangers have won 3 of 4. The injury status of Tristan Jarry for the Pens is a little stressful to me, especially when you're going up against a goaltender that's the Vezina Trophy favorite right now, and Igor Shesterkin. I mean, he's the best goalie in the league this year. He's been phenomenal between the pipes. In 30 starts at home, he has a .940 save percentage. That's unfreaking heard of. And he's only allowed 4 goals to the Pittsburgh Penguins throughout the season on 101 shots on goal. So I think that Igor Shesterkin's going to get them to the Eastern Conference Finals by himself without the Rangers 5-on-5 play. So I love them to win game 1 plus the series at plus 158. You have a couple series bets too that you're making.
I love that Rangers game 1 plus the series. I just simplified it, just bet the Rangers to win the series. I mean, just think about the math. They have home ice advantage. They have the massive goaltender edge. And they're not laying anything on the series price. I mean, I got minus 110. I believe MGM was the book that I got it at, but I did send out a bunch of series plays yesterday. 2 units on the Rangers minus 110. I also have 2 units on the Lightning at plus 110. Obviously, they didn't look too hot yesterday. You can get a much better price on the Lightning today. I wouldn't fret. They got their stinker out of the way early. They gave the Maple Leafs all their confidence. I saw all the Canadian fans. They're basically ready to just start the parade now.
Yeah, basically.
Crazy. 1 game into the postseason, they're already, getting ready to start the victory parade for the Maple Leafs. So I'm not buying the Leafs at all. So I'll stick with that Lightning position and 2 units there, 2 units on the Rangers. And those are my only first-round series props or futures that I'm betting.
I like it. Okay, so my one NHL pick that I have today, because here's the thing. It's like when you look at some of these, obviously I know that the Avs are going to win today. I have a really good feeling about it. You look at the Flames. I think they're going to crush the Stars today. You look at, what's the other game? The Caps taking on the Panthers. I think the Panthers are going to roll today. But sometimes there's just not enough value in taking a lot of these teams that are huge favorites. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more value in some of these games, betting, like first period overs or betting like full game money line bets. Like we're going to see more value in that as, the playoffs go on. Because right now it's so funny in hockey. It's like really great teams going up against okay teams. Like the difference and the discrepancy between the top few teams and like the middle range teams that are 8 seeds, there's just a big variety between the two. So we're going to see a little bit more value, and I'll be betting a lot more, 3-way money lines and regular money lines moving forward into the playoffs. But something I do want to talk about, the one bet I have today is my best bet of the day, so I'm going to save that for a second, and it might have to do with the Rangers winning game 1. I'll let you know in about 5 minutes. But right now, let's talk about pucks on net. We're going to both give a 15-second analysis on if we think from the 4 games today if the total is going to go over or under. This is not necessarily bets that we've made, but how we are leaning in this spot. So I'll start with you on this one. Pittsburgh taking on the New York Rangers. The total is 5.5. Do you think that's going to go over or under in this spot?
Can I be honest? I'm going to make your job really easy today. I'm under in all 4 games. Playoff hockey is not. Yeah, absolutely. Playoff hot. Now, that doesn't mean they're all going to go under. And I don't have these like sharp analytical reasons to bet them. But Playoff hockey is a different animal. You know, you've been around it for a long time. I'm not betting over in any postseason game. Period. End of story. Like, definitely that's not happening. I'll either not bet the total or I'm going to bet the under, because it's just a different vibe when these teams get into the playoffs. It gets a lot tighter in the neutral zone. Goaltending matters a lot more. There's not backup goalies in net where hey, this night they're in the front end of a back-to-back. The backup's going to be in. It's every inch, every second is contested and battled to the utmost degree. Yes, of course, empty net late because of, hey, they might go an extra minute of empty net, which might screw your
There's going to
under.
be a lot of backdoor covers, I think.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think totals in the NHL is a good bet come postseason. I just don't. So under in all 4 games, I have no analytical reasoning for it. I just refuse to bet the over in the postseason. That's like a big
okay.
softball.
I like it. Pittsburgh, New York, obviously I like the under in this spot because of Igor Shesterkin. The one thing that makes me a little nervous is the Pens not having Tristan Jarry in net, the fact that it's Casey DeSmith. And he has decent numbers. He's solid between the pipes, but he's not like phenomenal between the pipes. So, but you bet Shesterkin here. He's not going to allow very many goals. I like the under in this spot. Washington, Florida, I also like the under in this spot. Florida Panthers led the league this year in goals per game at 4.11 goals per game. Washington, they're pretty good, 3.29 goals per game. So if you add that up, that's about 7. If they're scoring their season average, you're going over in this spot. But I agree with you. I think goaltending is going to be really, really big here. Nashville, Colorado, I'm leaning the over just because I've seen Colorado play. I've seen their offensive efficiency, not just during the regular season, but also during the last 3 postseason runs that they've had. They put up numbers, and they put up numbers in bunches. Their lines 1 through 4 are even better this year than they were the last 3 years when they made it to basically Game 6 and Game 7 twice in the second round. So I lean over in this spot also because I don't necessarily trust, no offense to Darcy Kemper, I don't necessarily trust Darcy Kemper as much as I trusted Philip Grubauer last year. He's been good. He's been solid, but he hasn't been one of the best in the league, and same with Nashville too. So I kind of leave the over in this spot. Dallas, not very good offensive efficiency. They're towards the bottom actually in the league, only scoring 2.84 goals per game on the season. And you look at a team like Calgary, who you love, they're scoring 3.55 goals per game. I don't think Dallas is going to be able to put up the offensive numbers. So the only game I'm leaning over, again, these are not official bets that we've made, is Nashville, Colorado over. The other 3, Dallas, Calgary, 6. I'm leaning under. Washington, Florida, 6.5, leaning under. Pittsburgh, New York Rangers, 5.5, leaning under in this spot. It's going to be interesting to see how all of these games play out, but I'm excited to see some postseason hockey. The energy and the intensity that these teams bring during the postseason, there's nothing like it. There really is nothing like it. So before we get into our best bets of the day, let's take it across the pond, Jared. I know you have a couple kick picks today.
Wait. We got to do overtime. We got to do this overtime stuff. So overtime challenge. So I did this last year. I didn't track it last year. I wish I did, but I did look at it very hard. Our friends over at VSiN actually tracked it, and they said that it wasn't, they didn't track the odds, but 26 out of 84 playoff games last year went to overtime, which is about 31%. And if you take that to implied odds category, that's about plus 225. So most of these games, sadly, last night, none of the games went to overtime, 0-4. But if you're getting over 3-1, which you're getting on pretty much every single one of these postseason games, I do think at the end of the rainbow, we're going to get about 20, about 30, 31% again this year. So I'm tracking this year, similar to the NRFI, YRFI stuff. I've got a separate spreadsheet for it, and I'll be tracking it on a 1-unit basis. And I'm going to try to find the best odds for you guys, and I'm going to see how things shake out. Personally, I'm only betting 0.1 unit on it. I don't want to blow my bankroll up because of a theory. It's not a test. It's just a theory. Again, we have not a lot of data to support this because, we've only had gambling around for a couple years. But for the most part, these are 3-1 on these overtime odds. I don't know if they existed before really FanDuel and DraftKings and these other sports books really came into existence. So I'm going to see how things go this year, and I'll keep you up to date. Of course, you could check the trackers. The odds that I got today: Stars Flames plus 370, Preds Avs plus 430. If the Preds Avs goes to overtime, it covers the rest of the bets for the rest of the day. Caps,
Yeah,
Panthers
totally.
+3, Rangers, Penguins +325. The best odds that I'm seeing for overtime is all at Caesars. So check out Caesars. That seems to be the best numbers. And we're going to try. Listen, who knows? It could be 0-12 before we hit one. You never know. So manage your risk accordingly. But I'm going to have some fun with these because I think it's a fun thing to root for, too, for the game to go to overtime.
Totally.
So,
Totally.
see how things go. But that's
We'll
what
see how
it's
that
calling
works
the
out.
overtime challenge. Overtime
We'll
challenge.
call it the NHL Overtime Challenge. You love to see it. Okay, let's take it across the pond quickly, Jared, before we get into our best bets today. You have a couple bets. Tell us about.
Oh, Jack's cracking me up. So we have this new little system that he can chat with us now a little more directly. Producers are in a jovial mood today. I have one wager. So there's one Champions League match happening today. I believe 3:00 Eastern time. Yes, 3:00 Eastern time. Villarreal out of La Liga hosting Liverpool. So I'm going to do a same game parlay, and I'm going to go Liverpool money line parlayed with the under 3.5. Very juicy here, plus 175 over at Bet365. Again, this is the semifinal round of the Champions League, the second leg. Liverpool leads 2-0 on aggregate. They were dominant. It was 0-0 at half. Then they scored 2 goals very early in the second half last week at Anfield. Liverpool now unbeaten in 12 matches. Their last 3, all victories to 0. 6 of their last 9 away matches have been a victory plus the total under 3.5. They're the best team in Europe. I think they're going to win the Champions League, but first they have one more match against Villarreal today before they inevitably get to the final. And this Villarreal team, they're nicknamed the Yellow Submarine. They wear these yellow uniforms. I don't know if they're wearing yellow today, but they have never beaten a English Premier League team in the Champions League. They've lost their last 6. Bad matchup for them. And again, the Champions League, it's these best of the best in the Spanish league, which actually has been pretty good. They got Real Madrid in one semifinal, Villarreal in the other. But when you manage up to these English Premier League teams, they just struggle. They also have injuries to key strikers, Gerald Moreno and Arnaud Danjuma, which combined for 19 goals, these two guys. So I don't see a lot of offense from Villarreal. And Liverpool knows, listen, we don't need to win this match 3-4-0. If we win 1-0 or even if it's 0-0, we will go to the final. So we are going Liverpool money line under 3.5. Same game parlay plus 175. The kick pick of the day. Let's go, baby.
Kick pick of the day, baby. All right, before we get into our best bets, let's head out to the Pickswise.com website. 3-star play of the day. Jared, who do we got? I don't know why I just had an accent for a second, but you know what? We're doing it anyways.
What was that accent?
I don't know. It was like a country, like mixed with British, mixed with, I don't know what that was, to be honest with you. I'll never do it again.
Country.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. Everyone can go. It's technically Taco Tuesday, so you can use any dialect you like.
Tuesday.
All right, I see 2 here on the site that I'd like to mention. First, we actually do see a total on the Penguins Rangers game. Christopher Moraes has a play on the total. And also our friend Diane Knox, who I'm sure will join us later this week for the Wells Fargo Championship, has an outright winner at 20-1. And I like this pick a lot, and I'm sure she'll tell us why a little more tomorrow. But go check it out, Pickswise.com. P-O-D.
Pickswise.com. 3-star play of the day. We're trying to win you money every single day. Make sure to read out the descriptions why on Pickswise.com. Our best bets today. Okay, I'll start with mine. So obviously I told you I'm on that. I parlayed Rangers game 1 plus the series. I got that at plus 158 on FanDuel. So I'm looking at the game today. I really like the Rangers 3-way money line at plus 120. They've won 3 of the 4 games against the Pittsburgh Penguins this year. The injury status for me of Tristan Jarry is going to be massive in this matchup. He's out for game 1, probably going to be out for game 2. Casey DeSmith is going to be between the pipes. Now, the Pens rank higher right now in terms of 5-on-5 goals for and against per 60 minutes, but the Rangers have the edge in net with Igor Shesterkin. I don't think the Pens can beat Shesterkin 4 times. I really, really don't. He has a .940 save percentage over his 30 starts at home, which is pretty freaking incredible. And he's only allowed 4 goals on 101 shots against the Pens this season. 4 goals on 101 shots, Jared. I don't even know what the percentage is of that, but It's really, really good. Now, since February 17th,
Yeah,
depends
really
on a really strong, yeah, really good. Depends on a really, really strong start to the season. But since February 17th, they're only 15-17. They also have the worst record against playoff teams since then, 14-25. Now, New York is playing at home at MSG. It is an extremely tough place to play. It gets loud. Obviously, you guys have been to quite a few of those games being from New York. And betting against Shesterkin at home is never a good thing to do. So I really like the Rangers three-way money line at this spot. I like getting it at plus money, plus 120. Shesterkin's going to show up, show out, and I think that he's going to get this Rangers team to the Eastern Conference Finals by himself. I really, really do. Rangers, lock it in at home, three-way money line. Let's go.
I like it.
Who do you got for your
Maybe
best
I'll
bet
tell
of the
you
day?
on it.
Please do.
Excuse me. Oh, I like it so much. I'm losing my voice here. So I went back and forth on this one. I think, as much as I think the Warriors do win tonight, I think, we're kind of holding the Warriors Western Conference final ticket. So I'm not going to go too crazy with pushing that envelope. I'll just stick to that, even though I do think Warriors money line laying 30 cents at various spots is a good play. After what we just saw the other day, I would not lay 1.5. I know that sounds crazy, but I know Lauren's still losing sleep. And not only that, it was Alex's best bet of the day too. That was a Robert. Here, this was.
You hate to see it. I usually say you love to see it, but you really hate to see that.
Oh, you hate to see it. So if you are playing the Warriors tonight, don't get cute. Just lay it on the money line. Don't worry about Klay Thompson's stupid free throws at the end. All right, I will give out Tyone under 4.5 strikeouts as my play of the day. He's projected for 3.6. I don't like him as much on the road as I do at home. Even though this Yankees rotation has been very consistent, they've got one of the best rotations in baseball this year. They've started 5 guys throughout the entire season. That is very rare. Usually there's a spot start or a doubleheader or something that, throws off that rotation. But the Yankees have been consistent, and I would say Tyone is probably the caboose of the staff, considering how good Cortez and Severino and last night Montgomery and obviously Garrett Cole have pitched this year. But Tyone's numbers against the Blue Jays haven't been great. 582 FIP, just a 14.5% K rate in 55 plate appearances against the current Blue Jays hitters. His K per 9 drops from 8.55 to 7.86 home road. And that's throughout his entire career. So just a hair worse on the road than he is at home. And his one road start this year indicative of that. Just 2 strikeouts against the Orioles, who are a bad lineup and a really high K percentage team. That is not the case with this Blue Jays squad that were held to just 2 runs last night and are probably licking their wounds a little bit. They want to get back out there and swing the stick. So I think Tyone, maybe he's a 3 or 4 strikeout guy tonight. I don't see him getting to 5. I laid 26 cents over at FanDuel. I think this is a decent bet. It's my only official K prop of the day that we are giving out. So I will go to the under 4.5 on Tyone for my best bet of the day.
You love it. That's it for us today. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Jared Smith, Lauren Jabara, best of luck tonight, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's get it. Let's bet it.